So today we're going to continue to the very end of the book 2, chapter 9, that deals with the three kingdoms. And today we are starting with the animals and humans. Long covered the mineral and the vegetable plants last week. And important to note again that João said, and it's good to remind ourselves that this is the biology of the studies of life of the 1867, okay? Science has changed quite a bit, the taxonomy has changed quite a bit. They recognize many more kingdoms, not only three anymore. The fungi is a kingdom in itself, and there are other kingdoms, I believe are 5 or 6, right? And even before before taxonomy starts at kingdom, and then you go to phylum, class, order, and so on and so forth, right? Now you have one on top of kingdom now, they have the domain. So you have the eukaryotes and prokaryotes, right? Eukaryotes don't have a well-formed nucleus and prokaryote cells, and prokaryote does not have an organized nucleus, right? So it changed, and just measured, it changed a lot. But what is being said here remains, is the same, doesn't change. Okay, even though biology have discovered and will change taxonomy and will discover more things, as you're going to see if you get that today, communication amongst the animals. The spirits cannot advance too much. So they'll say something, but we have to do our work to understand better the animalia. And now today you understand communication amongst animals much more than we could even consider the possibility in 1857. So it's good to take in mind the perspective, the difference in time, the difference in advancement of our physical sciences, our biology, our zoology, but the content here remains the same. The same it was in the 1850s is the same today. You just have to add the new things that we have discovered. But the content in speaking of the spirituality is absolutely the same. It doesn't change, okay?
Animals and humans?
You can see well?
Yes.
Animals and humans, 592.
If we compare human beings with animals in terms of intelligence, it seems difficult to draw a line between them. Some animals are notoriously superior to some humans. Is it possible to establish such a line precisely? Your philosophers are far from reaching a consensus with regard to this point. Some say that humans are animals, while others are similarly positive that the animal is a human. They are all wrong. Humans are distinct beings who sometimes drop very low, or who may raise themselves up very high. With regard to their physical nature, humans are like animals. However, they are more poorly equipped than many of them because humans must create inventions using their intelligence. Next, using intelligence for their needs and survival. Their bodies are subject to destruction like that of animals, but their spirits have a destiny that they alone can understand because they alone are completely free. 1 second.
When the sound is very low.
Sorry about that. I'm looking for my place.
Okay, poor humans.
Poor humans. Oh, poor human beings who degrade themselves below beasts. Do you know how to distinguish yourselves from them? Recognize the superiority of humans by their knowledge of the existence of God.
I'm going to try to change the speaker here, see if we improve the quality of the sound, okay?
Okay?
One of the best. No, it's not okay. Yeah, it's not. Okay, but can everybody hear Philip when he's reading? All the other ones?
Yes, yes, I'm able to hear Philip and also you, Elmo.
Okay, very good. So the problem is with us, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody has the book, right?
Sorry.
Okay, good. Again, our physical sciences studies the physical. Biology studies life, physical life. Disregard spirituality. Biology does not put in consideration the abstract, the spiritual at all. In that manner, we humans are animals. Biologically speaking, we are animals. We have all the characteristics of living beings as animals, right? I mean, the main difference between plants and animals is plants is basically self-sufficient, like they can produce their own food. We need to get food from somewhere else, right? That's cockroaches, earthworms, they all need to find food from another source. They cannot produce their own food. So this is one characteristic of being an animal. In that, we are animals, right? And if we follow this whole taxonomy, we are chordate. We have a spinal vertebral column, right? We are mammals. Our females produces milk. So in common with many other animals, many like whales, who also has a vertebral column. The female also produces milk. And you go in that, and then you have similarity with primates, you know, with monkeys, with the apes, with gorillas, and get to a point that there is this missing link. What is that missing link, right? So and you go down in this taxonomy thing until you get to genus. Now we are Homo sapiens, right? The genus is Homo, right? Homo is unique. There is only one Homo species with us. Was there some before there was extinct? Perhaps. Okay. But you know that above Homos, what is the name of it? I forgot it. Is the order, right? No, the family. The family, Hominidae. Our ancestry with some other apes. Apes are, you know, basically the primates without a tail. That there was some similarities with us, but then at that point there was a broke, something we separate from the rest of the primates, right? So we separate from those primates even before the formation of the chimpanzees, of the gorillas, and things like that. So what happened there, right? Naturally, there we have to put the input. We as a spiritist, the spirit. Now that physical body was able to serve an individualized intelligent principle. And then we become what we know as the Homo sapiens species. That know that there is Australopithecus, the Homo erectus before, following the path until get what we are today, right? The different species, but it's still already Homo, right? What creates that difference? Something abstract, no longer physical. Something that deals with a continuous ability to reason, with intelligence that is extremely superior than other animals, not just a little superior than other animals, right? And in spiritualism, we understand the concept of the divinity, the concept of a conscience, that we have conscience, we have the concept of the divinity that separates us from the rest of the animalia. Some like to say that we are a fourth kingdom, homino in Portuguese. I disagree. Because we are studying two things different. Biology with its taxonomy is one thing, and spirituality is another thing, right? Now, Kardec places the question, say, but some animals seems to have qualities even superior than human. And the spirit says, yes, they do. Not being able to create things by themselves, they already have whatever they need for their survival. We having the intelligence, we need to produce, invent things for ourselves, right? The spirit says, however, they are more poorly equipped than many men of them, because humans must create inventions using their intelligence. So we have bare skin. We don't have a strong leather over the skin. We don't have a lot of fur over the skin. So we have to invent ways to protect ourselves from the environment. We have to invent ways to create clothes. We have to find ways to kill other animals and use their leather to protect ourselves. There's all things that requires intelligence and produces more intelligence. The more you use, the more you it's like a muscle. The more you use, the gets big escape. It gets. We have much weaker muscles. We cannot run as fast as most mammals, right? Most animals, if not all, instinctively know how to swim. They may not like it. They will avoid some species will avoid, but if they have to, they know how to swim. Humans have to learn that. Throw somebody who doesn't know how to swim, and they will likely lose their physical life there. We need to learn, right? If you want to fly, we have to develop instruments that allow us to fly, to work with gravity. Words already come with it, because we have the intelligence. So it's, in zoology, no longer they make comparisons of intelligence. No, but that's my monitoring. The comparison of intelligence can only be made species into species. Get a bunch of chimpanzees and see which one is smarter of them. You can do that. But you cannot compare the intelligence of a chimpanzee or with the intelligence of the gorilla or of dolphins. It makes no sense, but each one is sufficient intelligence for their survival, for their needs for survival. And they're extremely intelligent in doing that. If you get an octopus with the ability of problem solving, it's unbelievable how they can resolve problems. If there is food somewhere, the octopus will find it and will find a way to get to it. They will find the smallest possibility to get it, they'll get that smaller possibility to get it. They'll find it. They have a tremendous ability of problem solving. And we see that in the whole animalia. So they are intelligent, rudimentary intelligence, extremely rudimentary in some species and a little more evolved in other species, but all are intelligence sufficient to survive. Otherwise, they'll be extinct, they'll not be here anymore, right? And the evolutionary path is that if you do not adapt, if you're not able to create that minimum intelligence to survive, you'll be extinct. And we see that happening every single day in our lives. Species that we don't even get to know as being extincted because they cannot cope, create mechanisms for survival. The intelligent ones, rudimentary as it may be, will find ways to continue to exist. And that's what animals want. All the intelligence is limited to the physical, to the concrete, to find food, to procreate, right? To preserve its own genetic pool, not the species. Animals are not concerned with the species. You know, a lion is not concerned that I want the lions to live forever. No, they are concerned with their own genetic pools. That's it. My baby's only, the rest I don't care, right? And humans have, again, so the superiority by have a conscience, by have the concept of the existence of a God. It's very important that when this Spirit says over here, the bodies are subject to destructions like that of animals. There here remains to humans. But the spirits have a destiny that they alone can understand because they alone are completely free. So here's a reference of having a free will, which is not free, which we don't have entirely completely developed yet. Our free will advances as our intelligence advances and as we refer more and more to our conscience, right? Animals does not have much free will. I'm going to, I don't want to go ahead and mental the stop to the here because Kardec's going to ask specific questions like that regarding intelligence, about free will, so I don't want to go ahead. But the Spirit says that we are completely free. I don't know how completely free we are, but we are completely free for the level of this planet at least. Because having this continued ability to think, but continuous reasoning, which some animals have partial here and there. Men have continuous ability to reason and have already the dividing laws imprinted in the conscience. Now we are responsible for our acts. We create, for us, the law of action or reaction applies. For animal, it doesn't. So we are free to act, having all these abilities, but then we acquire the responsibility to act correctly because then there is a law of cause and consequence upon us. Amongst the animals, that is not the case. So if a male lion fights with the leader alpha male of another tribe, kills that lion and goes, first thing he does, and go kills all the babies, all the cubs there because he wants the females to have his baby. He's not guilty of anything. He does not have any karma. He is as cruel as may be, we may seem, he's doing a favor to their own species because it's created diversity of the genetic pool. Because if it's only that male that keeps reproducing, then we're going to have a problem with genetics. Eventually, someone has going to have to beat that alpha male and make babies with different genetic pool. That sounds horrible, right? For humans, it does not apply. You cannot accept that amongst humans, right? But in the animal, with lions, that's totally acceptable and good. When you see dolphins go and literally sequester females and steal them from other parts, for us, it's ridiculous. You know? It's not acceptable. In that group of animals, it's totally acceptable. It's created diversity of the genetic pool, allow the species to remain healthy. So there is a reason, even though to us it's cruel, And it is true if humans do it, but not for animals. Okay, any questions, any comment? I think I spent a long time in this question, but this question is basically the basis for everything that is breakdown. Kardec basically going to break down this answer from now on here.
Shall I?
Yeah. Yeah.
593. Can animals be said to act only from instinct? That is merely a theory. It is true that instinct predominates in most animals, but do you not see some of them act with a resolute will? This is intelligence, despite being of a narrow range. It is impossible to deny that some animals show signs of possessing the power of performing complex acts that demonstrate the will to act in a specific direction and according to circumstances. Consequently, they possess a sort of intelligence, but the exercise of this intelligence is mainly concentrated on satisfying their physical needs and providing for their own survival. Among them, there is no creation, no improvement. Whatever may be the skill that we admire in their labors, that which they did previously is the same that they do today, neither better nor worse. According to constant and unvarying forms of propositions, the young bird, isolated from the rest of its species, builds its nest on the same model without having been taught. While some animals are capable of learning to a certain degree, their intellectual development, though narrow, is due to the action of humans on an adaptable nature, for they themselves have no power to progress. That artificial development is passing and purely individual, because when left to its own devices, the animal quickly reverts to the limits traced out for it by nature.
Okay, so can animals be said to act only on instinct? In zoology, study behavior of animals, they divide two kinds of behavior, instinctive and learned. And if there is learning, there is intelligence behind. It is believed that in order to learn something, you have to have a degree of intelligence. Okay. And we know that in many species, a lot of the behaviors, mostly for social animals, right, that lives in group, there is tremendous amount of learning. The cubs, the babies learn from the mother, or learn from the collective, in the group, right? So there is a degree of intelligence. When you see a cat goes out and kills a bird or kills a mouse. Instinct. He has that instinct to catch that prey, and he'll catch that prey. But what to do with that mouse is learned. And that's why you see, especially cats that they're domesticated, where they go outside, they roam around. They say they come back and bring presents to the parents, right? It's not present. They caught that mouse, and they say, look, I got it. What do I do with this thing now? Show me how to do this thing here now. Why did I catch this thing for? Right? Purely instinctive. They see the mouse where they didn't think twice, they call it. And then kill them and say, shit, why do I do this thing now? Because to eat the mouse, there is a learning behavior. Mama teach them how to open, how to whatever, now in case of birds, how to take off the feathers and stuff. That's a learned behavior. So they instinctive, they kill. They learned, it's missing because they didn't have money to teach them how to do, right? And you see that in many of the species. but there is a degree of intelligence. But that intelligence is limited for the best chance of survival and best chance of perpetuating their own genetic pools. They want eat, protect themselves, and mate. And the intelligence is limited to that. And they will do things that problem solving is that has to be a degree of intelligence right there. Some problem solving is purely instinctive also. You figure out a way to do things and say, oh, there is a tremendous intelligence behind of it. No, purely instinct also. Okay. If you get a dog, get as a puppy, let's say as a female, we get as a female pup, and you teach them lots of tricks to do a lot of things. And then that female have their own babies. That female will not be able to teach the puppies to do the same tricks. A human being gonna have to teach that pup to do the puppy to do the same tricks that the mom have learned. The mom will know how to do, but you will not sure be able to pass it along. Right? Both have intelligence, but it's so limited. They will learn, and they will learn because there is a reward. You give them a little treat if they do this. So if I do this, I get treat, I'll do that. Every time they ask me to do it, right? Or unfortunately, in some case, because if I don't do it, I get punished. If I don't do what they tell, they're gonna beat me up. So you do to survive, to get food or not get beaten up, which is not good, right? And that's why they're going to learn the tricks. Personally, that's, I believe, I'm not absolutely sure. I'm sure that with time, there is development, what I would call a imprinted intelligence in the DNA. And I say that because of, you take, let's say, amongst dogs, you get a shepherd breed, okay? Even if you don't teach them how to be a shepherd, they have that instinct shepherd behaviors. Even if you don't teach them how to surround the owners and the family, protect them, they'll do that almost naturally, right? To get a retriever, and in order to ask them to retrieve a ball they throw, you just have to do it once. You throw and tell them what you want to do, and they'll do it continuously. You get a breed that is not a retriever, they will learn, but it's not going to be as quick as a retriever can do. So I believe there is, with time, some of this intelligence is imprinted in the DNA and allows that species to have that characteristic. Because you got a Doberman, even without being trained to be a guard, it will be naturally a guard. They will protect that house. They will protect that family. They will be looking out for anything that does not belong. Naturally. If you train them, they will be much better, of course, right? But they already have that. And it doesn't take much to train them. Can I train my shepherd to be a guard? Perhaps I can, but it's gonna be a lot harder than to get a Doberman who already has that natural instinct to guard. And how do they develop that, right? Since all dogs basically a descendant of wolf, right? And Canis lupus transformed into Canis familiaris, right? And from there, many different breeds came along because we wanted those breeds to come along. We want animals to be shepherds. We want animals to be guards. We want animals to be just little companions in the house and do nothing else, just look good, right? There's many of those things. We create those. There is intelligence there, okay? But they will not be able to pass it along. And without the need, they will not do it. Leave them alone. You can train an animal to do all kinds of tricks, and you lose the animal in the forest. They're going to lose those tricks. They're not going to be doing that just for fun because now they know it. It's not really part of them. Others, purely instinctive. Like snake, when the snake hatch from that egg, it knows everything that you will ever learn throughout their existence. You're not gonna teach a snake anything. At the moment they get out of that egg, they know how to hunt, they know how to hide, they know that they are cold-blooded and they have to protect against the cold, and they know everything they will ever learn. 100% instinctive, right? Others, you have to learn. Big difference in Africa, the big cats, you got the cheetah. If the mom dies, chances are the baby will die. The leopard, mom dies, there's a good chance that the babies will survive because they have a lot more instinctive behavior than learned behavior. So a baby cheetah needs to learn just about everything from mommy. A leopard needs to know very little from mommy. So the chance of survival is much bigger with purely instinctive behavior in that case. Okay, any questions here? All right, move on.
Do animals have a language? If you mean a language made up of words and syllables, no. If you mean a method of communicating with one another, yes. They say much more than you think, but their language is limited to their physical wants, just like their ideas. There are animals that have no voice. Does this mean they have no language? They understand one another by other means. Do human beings communicate exclusively via verbal speech? And mutes, what about them? Animals gifted with a social life have means of communicating information and expressing their feelings. Do you think that fish have no way of communicating with each other? Human beings not do not have an exclusive privilege in the use of language. Language in animals is instinctive and limited to their wants and ideas, while that of humans lends itself to all the notions of their intelligence and can be perfected. Fish, traveling in masses, are like swallows that follow their leader and must be able to communicate, reach a common understanding, and make plans. They may be gifted with a sense of vision that is acute enough to distinguish the signs made to one another, or the water they may serve at, or the water may serve as a vehicle for the transmission of vibrations. It is clear that they must have some means of understanding one another, whatever these may be, just like all other animals have no voice and perform a group action. In light of this, is it strange that spirits are able to communicate without speech?
Okay. Well, do humans have language? Again, it comes to the definition of words. What do you mean by language? The ability to speak in words and have a grammar as we understand the language over here? No. The ability to produce sounds to communicate, many species does. You know, you hear birds sing, so that's just entertain us. They just want to make us feel happy and keep singing along. They're communicating among themselves, right? Again, this is 1857. Today, you understand language amongst animals a lot more. I mean, now they are being to decipher the codes on Wells communication, right? About the length of the sound and they are able to almost create, let's do a dictionary of the sounds of Wells, what those sounds mean and what do not mean. Amongst chimpanzees, I just recently understood that not only they are able to create sounds that are meaningful in which for us would be words, not gonna call it words, but they make sounds that are meaningful as for us it would be words. And more than that, they have discovered now they are able to communicate by banging on the trees, the sound of the trees. There is a rhythm that they create, and each one of those rhythms has a meaning for all the chimpanzees who are too far away to hear them. They will be able to hear the sounds of them beating on trees. So there is a large tremendous amount of communication. It could not be otherwise. Why it be social animals living in community without the ability to communicate, right? And if they have some kind of vocal cord, some kind of vocal apparatus that makes some kind of sound, nature does not waste anything. It is for purpose. And the purpose has to be for communication. Naturally, not as we understand the language, but for them, and that's the thing, is a very efficient means of communication. It's efficient for that species. They don't need any more than that, right? The first thing that I learned in communications is there is no better language than ours. French is not better than English, that is not better than Portuguese. They are equally good because they suffice for the communication amongst that group of people. So there is no language that's better. The communication among animals, the same thing. It's for that species. And they use whatever means of producing of communication. Now, Katak goes further and trying to be very complete. They says that animals do not have voice. So that means they do not communicate. They still say, what do you think that only vocal is the only means of communication? But not. And there is many other means of communication. We communicate through chemicals, communicate through color. By the change of the skin on your color, you send signals, you communicate, right? With the possibility that Kardec's placing over here of in school of fish, the movement that they create, the vibration they create in the water is a means of telling directly the group of something, right? So there's many ways to communicate. And they use as example about mutes and deaf in our society. They don't have a voice. Are you able to communicate? Yes. They are able to communicate. They find their ways to communicate. So animals, especially sociable animals, they will communicate. If not using some kind of a vocal apparatus, they use any other means. Chemical means, change of color on the skin, the way that they walk, with their more way you have in alligators and crocodiles that you open their mouth and birds will go over there and clean up the tear. There is a communication amongst the species, even between two species, that the alligator says, it's okay, I'm not gonna eat you. You can just have a meal over here and clean my tear. And then another time that the same crocodile may get one of those spots and eat. But at that moment, they send a signal, a communication signal that it's okay now, you can come in and get your meal and clean my teeth for me. They understand that, even between different species. But there is tremendous amount of communication, not necessarily verbal, because I never cannot understand that a crocodile will say anything to a bird and the bird will understand it verbally. It's a different means of communication that we do not understand, but they do.
I always think about bees and ants. They communicate all the
You're
time.
mechanical. Purely chemical. That's demonstrated now in our science. That is chemical communication.
Yeah.
Dolphins. Yeah, amazing. Very complex. They are able to create some sounds as again, it's like a dictionary of this sound means this sound means that. It's a minimum of studies.
But even in the cat, I see it. My cat does a different sound. If she wants to eat. She does a different sound. If she wants to go to the bedroom, then the door is closed. She does that.
Yep.
It's our job to understand. It's just like the baby. It's our job to understand it.
Right.
Right. That's the same, right? I think it's the same.
Okay, 9-5.
Do animals have free will with respect to their actions? They are not machines, but their freedom of action is limited to their needs and cannot be compared to that of humans. They do not have the same duties as those of humans because they are extremely inferior to them. The freedom of action of animals is restricted to the actions of their material life only.
Well, we can take for granted that everything that the animal will do is thinking of the best possibility of survival, how to find not only food, but the best food, right? How to procreate. The female will choose the best male to mate, and the male will do all the dances and all the looking good and out. So now so the female will pick him and not the other guy. No. In it, you see already some degree of it. What makes the female pick this one and not that? Let's assume how you are an animal, let's say leopard. A leopard that was your juvenile got hit in the face by a gazelle. It may avoid going hunt gazelle. It may choose to go hunt other animals. A gazelle only if I'm really starving because these things are very dangerous. They almost killed me once. They'll make that decision because I'm going avoid. I don't want to hunt gazelles anymore. I'm going to look at other prey, right? This is a degree of a free will decision that the animal have made. I'm going to avoid gazelles anymore. I'm going to pick that best guy with that I think is the best, give him the greatest possibility, give him the healthier of the baby. We're going to make it that one, not with that one, right? So there is a degree of choice making, a degree of freedom, likes or dislikes, right? But it's always meant for the physical existence of the best possibility of perpetuate the species and to survive. Okay, they are not machines. Okay, and we see the difference on high orders animals. There were high order mammals, the primates that they'll be a lot more selective. They'll be a lot more picky than the other species. So there is a minimum freedom for decision makers of making choices, but again, it's always in regards to the best means of survival, to get the best fruit, to choose which tree you're gonna spend the night because you think it's gonna rain and that wants you to get hopefully better protection. Intelligence. They'll be able to perceive there is a change of weather, it's gonna rain. I have to find a tree that is strong enough that's gonna follow the rain and then I'll be better protected. Is already an intelligence guided at a survival and make the choice with the best tree for me to find and choose that tree. They're not absolutely automatons.
$5.96.
Yes.
How do some animals have the ability to imitate human speech? And why is this ability found in birds rather than in apes, whose physical makeup more closely resembles that of human beings? The ability results from a particular development of the vocal organs further supported by the instinct of imitation. Apes imitate the gestures of human beings, while some birds imitate their voices.
I think it's interesting that the guy that's asking why some animals are able to imitate human voice. And naturally, it's regard to parrots, parrots family, and the kakatua, in Australia, some animals that can really speak just as human speaks, right? And why not our cousins, the ones that are closest to us, or the primates, why not chimpanzees, why not the gorilla, why not or orangutango, right? That's much closer to us. And I think the key of the answer is in the instinct of imitation. So two problems. One, some birds have a vocal cord apparatus that are able to mimic human voice. They're able to mimic human sounds. Primates does not have the same kind of a vocal apparatus, right? It's not the same kind of vocal cords. But more important, birds have developed the instinct of imitation of other animals for self-preservation and for communication with other birds for perpetuation of the species, right? So a bird may learn how to imitate the sound, let's say, of I don't know, a jaguar. Okay. When they see the presence of a jaguar that is going in the direction of the nest of their nest gonna eat their babes, it may be able to produce the sound of a jaguar that will distract that jaguar who's going in the direction of that nest. Say, oh, there is another jaguar here that sounds bigger than I better get out of here. Maybe I'm inviting that other jaguar's territory. I better get out of here, better not do this. So they develop that ability to imitate in order to survive. They may develop that ability to imitate to get a prey. Or the birds that prey on other animals, maybe they skill to imitate the sound of that prey to attract them close to them so they can have an easy lunch, right? But everything is guided for their ability to survive. Not for fun, not to please us, but they only think of themselves, of their ability of surviving. And for the primates that do not have that necessity, different species with different needs, they don't need to imitate. And they say they imitate gestures of humans, what they say. Apes imitate the gestures of human beings. I don't know if that. If they are saying it is so. I never read and never experienced that apes are trying to imitate human gesture, but they are saying here. I'll take their words for it.
Yeah, well, I see this like, especially parrots, which is most common. They imitate our voice, but they have no idea what they are saying. They cannot connect with what they are, the sounds they are making, if I can say this type of language, this imitation. They don't know what they are saying, right?
I don't know. I don't know, and then because I have seen birds that their owner asked them to sing that song and they sing that particular song. So I thought they know the meaning of the song. I thought they know the meaning of the words, so that's what to sing, right?
Yeah.
But they know what the owner is asking.
No, yeah, they
Yeah.
know what the owners.
Yeah, but if they ask them, say, well, what that means, yeah, no, they will have no idea. Sign language, I don't know about that. Sign language, yeah, that goes into the word of the gesture, right? Yes, of human beings. But I haven't seen that. Do you have experience with that?
I don't understand, but I see it on YouTube.
You see it, I'll see it.
That's just a repetition, like that they learn as other things, like, yeah, they're just.
Yeah,
They
probably
learn sign language just because of taught to them.
because they observe
Repeat it
humans
over and
doing.
over, then
Yeah, so it's just basically the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about imitation of sign language. But again, you're talking about trained monkeys, right? Yeah, I like to make a differentiation of wild and animals in captivity. You know, I think in an animal in captivity, yeah, they'll learn a lot of behaviors from humans. They'll be trained by humans. So I put that aside. And there are some animals that they're like pairs over there, they imitate in the wild, human voice. There's a bird out there that imitate anything that they can hear. Whatever, even some of cars they hear, they will make a sound of a car, and they imitate anything that they hear, including human voice. And of course, when trained, then the parrot will do just about anything that we can do with our voice. But again, they will not know what they're doing. If you ask them to interpret that for me, no, they won't be able to do that. They'll do just mimic, just imitate. 56, we're going to stop here. Is there any question?
a question, I don't know if it's very related, but, so what does the Spiritism says about us humans, eating, like giving to eat Because is that things that we have, or it's just our choice?
In the beginning, it was instinctive.
Yeah. But not.
And then you also learned, because anthropology says that, physical anthropology, that we start as purely vegetarian and you develop the taste for meat later on, right? Most of the studies say that we start as primarily eating roots and leaves, and that they will that conclusion by store of teeth, because they have evolution of teeth, right? And later on, develop the taste for meat came later. One of the proper probabilities is that we, as an species, went to a process, a evolutionary path, phase so fast that our brain was growing so fast that we need a tremendous amount of protein. And they found that, we figure out, right, that vegetables alone would not be able to supply the protein necessary to continue that development of the brain. So we created that desire to get more protein and went after animals. And then we observed all the animals that are carnivore and learned to eat from them. They said the beginning we were mostly scavengers. You know, an animal kill another animal, you try to scare that animal where we need to, what was already, animal was already dead. And later we developed that ability to kill. Okay. So there was one phase in our existence that was important and required for us to get that extra protein, that you would not get enough protein for the vegetables. We can now today, but with a tremendous amount of understanding of how to combine all the different kind of legumes and things that gives us all the necessary what's the word? Not protein, the breakdowns of protein. The essential,
Nutrition.
no, the essential amino acids that we can get everything in one steak. But if you get the same amount of the same amino acids from vegetables, you're gonna have to combine different kinds of grains and legumes and things, right? We can do it. We don't need to eat meat anymore. But at one point, We didn't know how to make the combination yet. Okay, so in that evolutionary path, eating meat made sense. Okay, should we be eating meat today? That goes with the conscience of each one of us, right? We don't need to eat meat today anymore because again, now we have learned through using our intelligence how to get all the necessary amino acids without killing another animal. I myself, I'm gonna leave that for the next incarnation. I have much bigger fish to fry right now. I got to keep eating my animals on this lifetime. But for those who are able to have less problem than I, it's a good idea to go. The spirituals will leave it at each one, make the decision.
Yeah,
At one point was
I
important.
see that as, I cannot like cut my meat intake on days on the next, but I can reduce.
Yes.
So I can make one day a week without any meat. I can reduce, like, get a smaller amount of beef, smaller amount of chicken. So I'm trying. Maybe one day, the next incarnation.
Yeah, for those who are able, we don't need to eat meat today. And again, it's all about the intention of why you do it. You know, if it's a good intention, it's a good thing to do. It's for vague vanity, then perhaps
But
it's less.
seen as a part that.
No. Cruelty, yes. You know, any cruelty, yes. If you kill for cruelty, yes. But to eat, no. At least not yet. Okay, you can stop there. It's 8:02 already. Carol, can you do a final prayer?
Certainly. Thank you very much, Emma. That was a very interesting topic. And thank you, Philip, for reading for us this evening and everyone who is here participating. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together again for our studies of the Spirit's Book, Book 2, Chapter 9, our topic being Animals and Humans. Humans are distinct beings and can create inventions using reason and intelligence. Humans also acknowledge the existence of God. Biology, however, does not consider the spiritual aspects of life as they are separate categories. Humans are free to act with responsibility. Animals must provide for their physical needs and specifically for their own survival. They may have both instinctive and limited learning through intelligence, but not creativity. Language in animals is instinctive and limited to vibration, sounds, gestures, and alerts. They are not machines and have the freedom of action that is primarily concerned directly with their survival. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all participants. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all spiritual centers throughout the world, that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we remind ourselves to go forth as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.